Hello friends, and welcome back to Class Creative. In this video we're going to indulge in some of the magical realism created by the artist Tracy Turner Shepherd in the hopes to positively inspire your creativity and overall mood. We will learn a bit about the artist, what inspires her and how she makes her captivating art before attempting to recreate one of her works using chalk pastels and some techniques learnt from my previous video. Before we dive into learning about the artist and the chalk pastel activity to follow, please have prepared the following items. You will need a selection of soft chalk pastels, some thick paper to work on, ideally chalk pastel paper or watercolour paper, a pencil and eraser, some masking tape, a fixative spray or hairspray to fix the chalk pastel art in place when complete to minimise smudging. Hi guys, so my name is Josie Ray and I've started the channel Class Creative, so just welcome back to another video, and I really am quite excited to share with you this amazing artist who I recently discovered, Tracy Turner Shepherd. I just am in love with her paintings and her use of colour work, so clever. She calls it a magical realism, her style, where yes, it is realism, but the colours are simply enhanced and saturated, and lots of sort of complementary colour work going on there as well. Beautiful. So this is specifically good for students that want to get into landscapes and they're sort of maybe a bit too hung up on the detail, but here she sort of focuses more on the block colour and the intensity of the colour and building up the layers of colour so that they're almost sort of lit from within, if you like. So do check her out, she's a fantastic artist. Some of her stuff is just very inspirational. The way that she plays around with colour. So she actually starts a lot of her work from the outside place where she's actually drawing, and then she finishes it off in the studio. Do check her website out as well. She's got lots of her work on there. A lot of her work is oil painting, and she's also an artist from the southwest of the United States, a place called Taos, I believe. So it is sort of inspired, some of it, by the landscapes of where she's from, but she does also have landscapes of places in France as well. She's got a lot of sort of lavender scenery, which is beautiful. I think the thing that I really like about this artist's work is how she sort of sneaks colour up on you. For example, within this painting of a goat here, the purple in the shadows really sort of stands out against the more contrasting yellowy orange there, and you would expect the shadow to be either grey or the type of brown, but yeah, it's beautiful how she really does sneak in vibrancy into her paintings where in reality it wouldn't be as vibrant. So the way that she sees the world is very magical, and the way that she puts the colour onto paper or onto her boards or linen, whatever she's working on, is very masterful, and it's lovely to see. So this is who we're going to be taking a inspiration from today, and I hope you enjoy the video. So the first thing to do is to mask down the paper that you're working with and have a reference image to work from. So the reference image that I've got here of Tracy Turner Shepherd's is one that I thought worked well. It was simple in terms of its shapes, and I'm just literally just sketching out with a pencil where I want those basic shapes to be. My tip is don't spend too long on the sketching because your chalk pastel is going to cover most of these lines anyway. Just use it as a guide. Here you can see I'm experimenting with some chalk pastel techniques that we actually experimented with in my last video, 12 essential chalk pastel techniques, and you can see that I've applied the dusting technique, but that was a little bit too light in colour, so I'm actually directly applying my chalk pastel colour to where I want it, and then I'm also just smudging and pushing that colour in with my fingers as I go along. But I am using the blending technique as well, because you can see the sky goes from a darker tone of blue into a medium and a lighter tone of blue. So just make sure, if you're not sure of the colours and you want to test them out, try them out on a separate piece of paper before you apply to your picture. Here I'm directly blocking in as well the blocks of colour where they need to go, and I'm being very careful of the more detailed section in the foreground of this sand dune, which is the wavy lines. So what I will do when I get to that section is I will do the lighter sections of red first and then go in with the darker later. I have also noted that there are sort of 2 tones of orangey red in the sand dune, and that's what you really do need to focus on, is getting those tones blocked in the right places, because what you don't want to do is block an entire colour down and then realise that it's the wrong shade or the wrong value. But I would say the beautiful thing about chalk pastel is that you can layer it. So if you do make a mistake, there is some leeway to work over the top of it with a darker or lighter tone. But it's always good to just be prepared with the colours and where you want them to go. So this is a very simple chalk pastel drawing, but it does require some focus and also some attention to detail where you want your thinness and thickness of lines. Here I'm using the side stroke technique, which we also practiced in the last lesson, and this worked really well and gave a really nice continuous thickness actually to the sand dune shape that I was trying to go for. I'm also just loosely blocking in the colour where I want it, and then later on I'm going to work with a Q-tip to actually push the chalk pigment into the paper, making it a more solid colour. What I would also say is that you have several Q-tips between your interchanging colours, so that you don't end up with a muddy, dirty sort of colour that you don't want. You want to keep your colour pigments as separate from each other as possible. Unless you intentionally want to colour blend, then that's fine. It is a messy art medium, chalk pastel, and so if you don't want to get it on your fingers, I do recommend working with a Q-tip as I'm doing here, and also having either a piece of tracing paper or scrap paper under your hand as you work from the top to the bottom of the page, so that you reduce on smudging. The good thing about chalk pastel is you can lay down really strong vibrant colours very quickly, and that gives you then extra time, if you like, to really go in and notice the details. So what I would suggest is that you look and intensify your observation in terms of where your colours need to blend and merge, and the line thicknesses. So I'm using the Q-tip here to actually blend those harsh lines where it needed, and also just make sure that all of the colour pigment is as solid as I want it to be. The final stage of creating this image is a very satisfying one, and if you have a fixative spray, please use that about 10 or 20 centimeters above. Give it a light spray just to fix the chalk pastel in place. If you don't have that, as I mentioned before, use an affordable hairspray, which equally works very well. And then we get to slowly peeling back the masking tape. Make sure you do this very slowly, because if you do it fast, then it does rip at the paper and you end up with chunks of paper missing where you didn't expect. So this should be done in a slow and steady motion. So once you've done that, don't forget to sign your art piece with your signature at the bottom, and it's finished. For anyone who has watched this video and isn't a student of mine, I'd love to see your creations and how you have transformed your landscapes with an influence of Tracy Turner. Please comment on the video below and leave a link to your artwork. Would love to see it.